We're up against PC Hunter. He's German, guys. It's fine. If he would be English, this would be maybe a slightly weird nickname, but since it's clearly an umlaut, that makes it okay. No, we're not in Grandmaster League right now. Although apparently I was in Grandmaster League last weekend, but I didn't even realize because I didn't log in. That wasn't great. Like, I was Master 1 when I logged out, and then I logged back in after the weekend, and it said, you have been removed from Grandmaster League as soon as I logged in. That was a little bit awkward.
We require more minerals.
Well, if it's not a cannon rush, it has to be Skytoss, right? That seems to be the gist of Protoss players that I face in Protoss vs Zerg on the ladder right now. It's either cannon rush or straight to Skytoss. It's a little crazy, but... So I talked about it a little bit the other day, though, and I was, you know, once again losing against Skytoss. And it literally made me not want to play ladder anymore. It was a little bit lame. I've been getting so much Skytoss recently that it really sucks a lot of the joy out of the game. However, I've been practicing a little bit here and there. And we actually have a plan right now for late game ZVP. Don't know if it's going to make much of a difference, but we're going to try our best anyway.
We require more minerals.
So it's basically Infestor, Hydra, Ultra. Double Chrono. Is he gonna leave the Adept in the wall, or is it maybe a Stalker? Could be. I think it's a Stalker. No, it's actually in the second Adept. There's a hole over there, though, right? Yeah. Oh, never mind.
Not enough energy.
Yeah, Infestors seem pretty good against bad Protosses. But since I'm not playing the best Protosses in the world, it should be a reasonable idea at the very least. One worth exploring. Let's leave it at that. We'll scout with that second Ovi. Gonna lose those first two links, sadly. It's a bit of a shame, but it's okay. You go over there. Okay, so it is gonna be a Void Ray first. Void Ray first is very, very common these days, as I'm sure you know. We could go for some Nidus play against this sort of thing, but I guess let's just not, okay? We'll, like, mix it up. I've been playing a lot of very aggressive Zerg, like, play styles recently. And we can win with Nidus Worms against this kind of thing relatively comfortably, but it's just, yeah, it's not a really good idea for, like, longevity's sake to, like, only cheese every game. I don't know if it counts as cheese if it's a timing attack, but you get what I'm trying to say.
We require more minerals.
Okay, so he already goes for a very quick third base here as well.
We require.
So we'll try and play this pretty greedy then too, right? So one of the downsides of this matchup right now is that since Protosses have the battery overcharge, it's extremely difficult to actually get any good damage in, right? Like, you have to basically commit to an all-in, otherwise you just get absolutely shreked. I think I could have maybe skipped the Roach Warren here, but it's fine. It's not a huge investment.
We require more minerals.
Probably need a Hydra then here, but...
We require more minerals.
Okay. So notice how passive Protoss is playing, right? This is like the new standard, basically. Just super passive, never do anything.
We require more minerals. Our forces are under attack.
Okay. Maybe a little bit too greedy here by me, but you get the gist of it, what we're trying to get done. So we're basically just trying to finish up droning here as fast as possible. I mean, if they're playing super greedy, I guess I can do the same thing, right? So this guy is still producing Void Rays here. He's also actually going for extra gateways here too, so... But that's a lot. That's a lot of high, or a lot of these flying f***ers already. Sorry, fudgers. Excuse me. But we're just going double upgrades and then we'll see what happens. I think he's just gonna expand towards the 4th base, to be honest. Like, it looks like he may want to attack, but I'm not so sure about it. A lot of Protoss players are doing this right now where they're basically not doing anything. It's kind of boring, but it's okay. If we see him taking a 4th base, I'll transition. Yeah, you can't really push into that. It's just not really a good idea. So we do need the gases over at that base as quickly as we can.
Unacceptable command. We require more minerals.
Okay, so there's the 4th base. We'll go Hydra, or Infestation Pit, rather. I mean, we're gonna be able to maybe delay this for a little bit, but probably won't be able to get too much done. Okay. So we'll finish droning here. We've got the 5th base coming up as well, which is neat. And we actually unironically want to go into Microbial Shroud, guys. This is gonna be crazy, but... Infestors actually seems pretty, pretty strange, but they're surprisingly strong. It's taken a while, but we have seen the light. The answer to all my problems. It was right there. In the Shroud. Okay, so there's Microbial Shroud, or sorry, there's Sonic Storm, which is real good, as you probably know. Okay, that's very nice. Just forcing the council on that base is all we're really looking for, so we'll go back home. Got some Infestors coming up. We're infesting in infest... Oh, okay, sorry. Now he's likely gonna walk a bunch of those zealots here pretty soon.
Mineral field depleted. Metamorphosis complete.
Okay.
Our forces are under attack. Mineral field. Our forces are under attack.
Ooh, I did not pay attention there to my army for about half a second. That's a damn shame. There's the carriers.
Unacceptable command.
So we really need 5 gases here. Wanna go into Ultras?
We require more Vesp.
I should have had the 5 gases here already done. Yeah, for sure. We want to go +3 carapace here as soon as possible. Got the Ultra Cavern coming up, and I want to make sure that I start up the +3 missile upgrade too.
We require unacceptable command. We are at maximum supply.
Okay. So the idea is that we go Ultralisks that go underneath whatever he's got, and that we can then go ahead and use those units to kill his High Templar. And then Microbial Shroud together with Ultralisks should be able to clean most of this up. Now, I've been playing very greedily this game, so I feel like we might have a chance there. I really need to make sure I have some map control though, because if he manages to get like 4 or 5 bases up, right? He's got 4 bases right now. That's acceptable. We got to be very careful with him getting more than that. I'll also get Neural Parasite if I didn't already. I did not. Okay. We can get the high yield gases going here pretty soon too. Okay.
Metamorphosis complete.
Okay, that was not bad, right? These are actually pretty good because we obviously have way more way more firepower here and way more income than him. Okay, so he's finally starting to do some run bys. Since we have creep spread so far out though, because Protoss players don't do anything anymore. They just sit there the whole game and make a bunch of carriers. It's kind of lame, but... this is pretty easy to spot, is what I'm trying to say, with our units. Our creep spread is so far out, we can just see the incoming army. Ooh, this is nice. This is well done by him.
Our forces are under a mineral field depleted. A creature is under attack.
Okay, we might want to back off here.
New subscriber detected.
Do we need to make sure that I have enough overseers? He's trying to get that other base up, right? There we go. Got more High Templar.
Mineral field depleted.
I think I could have won already, to be honest, if I did a little bit of a better job, but it's okay. He's basically broke. I don't really want to overextend, to be honest. I don't think we should. Nah, let's just back off. He's very much broke, right? So why would we risk it? Okay. Here, let me scout for your base. That was an accident, but a happy accident. We're Bob Ross now, okay? So I am a little bit scared of playing against Protoss these days, as you may have already noticed. Let me get my queens here. Brenda, Karen, come over here. We need you guys.
The hive cluster is under attack.
Come on. Batch up the ultras.
Not enough energy.
Alright, here we go again. We're bleeding him out, guys. He can't have another base anywhere, right? We would know if that were to be the case. Hello.
Mineral field depleted. Not enough energy. Our forces are under attack. We are at maximum supply.
And there we go. Alrighty. Woo. Now, I am very glad that I managed to win this game, because this is what I've been losing to in so many of my games. I made a bit of a joke at the beginning of this game, right? Saying, okay, if he's not cannon rushing me, it has to be Skytoss. But this is literally what we are facing on the ladder all the freaking time. People that either go for a cannon rush, or they go for, you know, this super turtly, I'm never gonna allow you to attack me, and I'm also not gonna attack you until I'm maxed out kind of approach. So I officially beat Skytoss, but it feels to me, and this is like the reason, I guess, where I always get frustrated whenever I lose against these kind of builds. It feels to me that this Protoss is putting in very, very little effort. Oh, hold up. My opponent is actually whispering me right now because I never saw people using Ultras. Is this legit? I tried it for the first time a few days ago. If you go for what the pro gamers are doing right now, the most standard thing to do is to go usually like initially, right? And then you transition towards Hydras, and then maybe sprinkle in a couple roaches. Then you go from there into Lurkers. Eventually into Hive Tech, you get into the Corruptors, and you get into the Vipers, and then you add in Infestors into the mix as well. And then even in the late game, you want to go for a ton of Spore Crawlers and all that too, right? You play this super passive, I'm not really going to be attacking you anytime soon kind of approach. And the problem I run into is that at 400 APM, it feels like I'm not fast enough to micro those kinds of armies. And I don't mean that like tongue-in-cheek or to like flex or whatever. I genuinely feel like I'm not fast enough to play those late game unit compositions where you have to like literally use 5 to 6 hotkeys worth of Zerg units. It's super hard. So, you know, even though players like Dark manages to pull it off every once in a while, right? My games, whenever I give that a try, it just doesn't happen. So I showed this on stream a couple times already over the last couple of days, but I think it's actually a pretty good example of what ends up going down, okay? So this is a game that Serral played versus Showtime during the TSL. And Serral seems to get the perfect engagement. Right? He gets a fungal growth on all of those Void Rays. Showtime ends up sending all of them back. And then while they're fighting, the Void Rays once again arrive, right? And this is about as good as you're gonna get a fight, it seems, as Zerg right now. And I'm gonna fight this.
And I am bad at SC2 lol.
I would fight this kind of late game Protoss army so much worse, right? That was very clean control there by Serral, all things considered. He got the perfect fungal growth, and the end result is that he killed like 30 supply worth of Protoss. And this is someone who has like 600, 700, 800 APM. So it's a very difficult situation to be in if you're a Zerg player in the late game right now. And
New subscriber detected.
Yeah, unless you have that really, really good late game control, you probably should avoid it. And I've really only seen Dark do it reliably recently. Wouldn't be surprised if more Zerg players are going to get more comfortable playing late game armies, but for everyone on the ladder, aka 99.99999% of the player base, you probably want to give a try what I was trying to go for in this particular game. Damn, gotta find new ways to abuse Zerg now, but thanks for the insight. Hey, I didn't think my opponent was gonna be, you know, someone with a nickname like that, generally speaking, is gonna be, you know. So if you want to give it a try, basically you just go standard early game. Then you go about 4:30 or so lair. Between 4:10 and 4:30 seems to be a pretty good time for the lair. Then double Evo, double gas, Roach Warren. I think my gases actually were a little bit late. I oversaturated this base, so I didn't do a very clean job, to be honest. That's how long it's been since I've been playing straightforward macro. Fourth base whenever you can afford it after building a bunch of army. In this case, I saw my opponent playing pretty greedy too, so I decided, okay, you know what? I'll just play pretty greedy myself. Want to continue Overseer scouting, right? Just to confirm that he indeed is still going to go for Skytoss. We saw him producing Void Race. Didn't catch... Well, I saw apparently the second Stargate. I didn't really register it though. Anyways, I saw him going for the Templar Archives and the Stargate, so I figured, okay, this basically has to be late game. If he's still producing Void Race at like 7 minutes. So, we're going straight up into like Hydras and Roaches here, right? Mostly just Hydras here, but I think I'm mixing a couple more Roaches in a little bit. And at that point, it's basically like you're playing against Turtle Terran. So, with Terran, generally speaking, you want to prevent them from taking future bases. And the same goes right here as well for Protoss. So when you see them taking a fourth base, it takes about 10 minutes or so until that fourth base is mined out. And coincidentally, this game lasted about 10 minutes longer. But that's basically the goal. You want to make sure that you have the whole map, ideally. And then that you can prevent them from taking future bases. So fighting into the static defense, very tricky. Not something you usually want to go for. Fighting into their bases where they don't have static defense yet, that's pretty good, right? So... it's basically like 75 to 80 or so drones. Double upgrades. And that's after you have a pretty decent army and pretty decent eco. You do need five bases, by the way, like for the 10 gases. But once you have a pretty decent eco, you can start adding in Infestors into the mix as well. So it's probably like 5 or 6 initially. Then go into Hive and get the Ultralisks out and the +3/+3 upgrades. And then later on, you want to add on even more Infestors. Now, I know some people would be wondering, hey, it would be good to like add on in, like, say, Vipers at this point. Sure. But that's when you get back to what I was saying earlier about like how those top-level pro gamers play late game. It's like, yes, it would be good, but it would also be very hard because like every Viper you add into the mix, like every group of Vipers you add, is like an additional 50 to 100 APM, just, you know, for the Vipers themselves. You need to babysit them a lot. So I think this is like the bare bones approach. Now, I do end up losing a lot of Hydras over here because my opponent, you know... I think I said when I got stormed here that I didn't look at my army for about 5 seconds. So, 953. Huh? Oh, no, it's actually a little bit later on. I want to know how long I looked away. Oh, yeah! And this is the story of my life in a lot of games. Now, the obvious answer is just don't look away from your units. I sniped the High Templar here. It's 950... 958. I look back. At... that was a good 2 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, I deserve to lose half my army here. Now, luckily, I managed to slither them away, though. Which is a little lucky. I think if I would have looked for a split second less, or a split second later, I would have lost all those Hydras. And with that, probably the game, but... Yeah, so I could have been faster on my 10 gases, I think. But look at how passive... Like, I know that this is gonna sound a little bit salty, but like, look at how passive this guy has been playing. Protosses in these scenarios do not care at all about what the Zerg is doing. They don't care about creep spread. They don't care about how many bases Zerg has. They don't care about any of that sort of stuff. All they need to do once they max out is carve one path through the center of the map, right? Like, that's what they're trying to go for. So... that's I think why a lot of Zerg players are getting frustrated about late game ZVP as well, because it doesn't matter how good your macro is, it just, you know, it does matter, but like even if you're macroing way better than your opponent, you may accidentally lose by not paying attention for like a split second. I am trying to trade a little bit. I don't know if that's good. I think it's fine, to be honest. Now the mothership comes in. Now, how to turn tables, though? Wait. Yeah, how to turn tables? Is that the Michael Scott quote? I think so. For the longest time, it was Zerg players turtling like the Protoss is doing here. Basically, Zerg would just go to Brute Lord Infestor, and that was very difficult for Protosses to stop. So, yeah, I guess, you know, they get to have the strongest army in the game now. Loko Vipers would help more than Infestors. I'm not entirely sure. So I have not practiced enough with the Infestors. I don't know exactly what the range and all of these different things is, but one of the problems I run into with Vipers is that they always get feedbacked. Plus, Vipers really only have one useful storm here. I mean, Parasitic Bomb is pretty good too, but it doesn't seem to do too much. It's kind of nice to have, you know, both Fungal Growth and then also Microbial Shroud. I can't believe I'm actually advising people to go Microbial Shroud. But the Ultra zoning away. Yeah, I guess you could also go Vipers with this. But I'm throwing Microbial Shroud on the Ultralisks because that's where the Infestors are at. Or sorry, that's where the Interceptors are at. So we want to throw the Microbial Shroud on where the Ultras are. And they actually stay alive for a ridiculously long time. I don't think I had enough here. You probably want to have like 4 to 5 Ultras. I had like 3 over here. That wasn't enough. So I go back. But like, it's still the rule that applies from earlier, right? Like, we really want to prevent him from ever getting a 5th base up. That's the main goal. Yeah. So basically, against a lot of carriers, you can use Microbial Shroud. And against a lot of Void Rays, you can use Fungal Growth instead. Also, one real big keys to this, though, and that's one of the things that I wasn't doing earlier, is going double Evo Chamber and researching Carapace right away. So I was still playing missile and melee upgrades whenever I went double Evo. But if I were to have Ultras right now without the +3 Carapace, they would absolutely suck, right? Like, Ultras are so much better when you give them the +3 Carapace. So you want to have maximum upgrades on armor especially, just so the Ultras can stay alive and then kill the High Templar. So that's the idea, like the Ultras go underneath the mothership, and since there's nothing on the ground other than a couple Archons and then mostly High Templar, the Ultras kill all of the High Templar and then,
detected.
you know, your Hydras and Infestors are pretty good. Like, the funny thing is, Hydras and Infestors have always been pretty good when it comes to fighting air units from Protoss. It's just the High Templar that mess it all up. Now, obviously, alternatively, you can definitely play Corruptors with Vipers and Lurkers and Hydras, and then, you know, Lings and Banes for run-bys and stuff. It is probably better, but also way harder to play. Yeah, so these fights actually work quite well, right? So eventually I did add on more Infestors. I don't think I actually really want to be using Neural here, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah, Neural Parasite actually was pretty good. I have a tendency to spam these spells on the Infestors, but Microbial Shroud is rather pricey as far as like the energy cost goes. Guys, I can't believe I'm saying it, but Microbial Shroud is actually good. It's not changed, by the way. I have been calling Microbial Shroud the worst spell in the game for a very long time. They have buffed it like a couple months ago. But, you know. So, by the way, for those of you wondering what made me try this out, it's Mr. Railgun. You're probably familiar with his Twitch stream. If not, he's been playing his own way of Zerg for a while now. And, yeah, he mentioned that this is actually a pretty good go-to unit composition. So he says either Ultra Hydra Infestor or Hydra Lurker Infestor. I have never really been the biggest fan of Lurkers. I actually think backing off here was the smart move, man. Like, I know it was kind of tempting here to continue pushing. Yeah, maybe I could continue pushing. Yeah, I probably could have. Yeah, never mind. I think I should have continued pushing. I was just a little scared, man. I've lost too many times to Skytoss. It's painful. Like, when you're ahead, you want to get more ahead, right? Like, I give him a lot of time right now to rebuild his interceptors, but... So I think I was really good, or I was kind of slow on taking, like, the 9th and the 10th gas geyser, but then I was way too fast on taking the additional ones after that, because I have way too much gas at this point. So you need to rush out 10 gases with, like, 80 drones. But yeah, once you, like, start adding on static defense, you don't really want to get too much more additional gas, I don't think. Got Microbial Shroud fungal growth there as well on the little interceptor ships. Actually insane. And I when the High Templar are gone, you can actually start targeting them. These are very efficient trades.